I think that we can start. So thank you guys for joining. It's really amazing that we can actually spend together this hour when everybody's probably at his home, actually chilling out, and like three guys are talking about Norway. Or but let's go into the meat. So I would like to ask you guys to say something about yourself, Maxim, Michael, and then in the end, probably you can mention something about organizer, Maxim, because you will be sharing the screen, right?
Yeah. Yes. But I have slides for myself and Mikhail, but not for organizer.
You can actually share. I have a delay. I had a delay. You can share a website, Angular Academy, just scroll up to down that, hey, here's the guy who stands behind all this mess here that we meet together.
Okay, so let me share my screen then.
Perfect.
Screen, desktop.
I see something.
Do you see it? Okay.
We do see it.
So this is my slide, and so you told me to open Angular Academy.
Yeah, if you scroll on the bottom, there would be a picture of myself on the website.
Folks, they see you, so no need to scroll for your picture. What's the URL?
Angular-academy.com. If you scroll to the bottom when you would be presenting your little bit up, you can treat it as like the slide for me.
Okay, good. Yes. So many achievements. Looks very good. And the correct pronunciation of your name is Bartosz, or?
Yes, Bartosz.
Bartosz. Good. So I'm really happy to be a guest together with Mikhail in a show of Bartosz. Let's start our show. And today our main topic is progressive web apps, but not just progressive web apps. Progressive web apps in context of Angular. And today we are trying to answer the simple question, how to create these apps. And we want to use some tools. This is me. By the way, do you see video streams which take some part of the slides? Maybe I have to...
Oh, no, we see just the slides.
Okay, it's fine. So this is it's smart tool. My name is Maxim Salnikov. I run lots of different meetups about Angular, progressive web apps, mobile apps. Also, I run NG Vikings conference. My Twitter is webmaxru, and maybe it makes sense for you to follow this if you're not yet, because I will post the link to these slides right after the session.
Thanks, Maxim.
I muted myself while clicked space. Okay, now turn of Mikhail to introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Michael, or Michael in English, as you want. I'm also active in the community, running Angular Vienna, and recently founded an association together with my colleagues that has the goal to support Angular meetups, events, and people in Austria and around. Next to this, what do I work? I run workshops, consultings, and trainings with the company Angular Colleague. I'm sure you can click on this or not in the slides. Not sure.
Yes. I added the link.
No stress. It should be easy to find online. And there's my Twitter handle. If you're interested, I tweet about Angular and RX stuff mostly. And food pics, of course. I'm a great fan of food porn.
Do you post any cats?
No cats. I have one cat. It's this big one. I don't know the name for the race. Maine Coon. And to be honest, I tried to get friends with her, but it's now a 3-year relationship and we are still trying to connect. So when it is about food, she's my friend.
Good. What is progressive web at all? It's the way we build modern web apps while using modern APIs evergreen browsers give us. By using this progressive enhancement idea, we can first not to ruin our current regular app, web app, and second, of course, we want to add some nice features on top of what we have, and also we most likely want to have this app as a cross-platform, which means that we want to run this app in browser and outside the browser on mobile device or on desktop. So the idea of cross-platform nature of PWA is to say escape the browser frame and make our JavaScript apps as first-class citizen apps for the platforms without any wrappers. So, and yeah, current say cross-platform solutions like React Native, like NativeScript, like Electron, of course they are cool and they do their job very good, but hopefully sooner or later we will just don't need them at all, because JavaScript will be like native language for these platforms. Very short about the current status. Let me list some cool logos, and it looks very good. So all the major browsers are there. I'm not talking about, say, full support of everything, right? Progressive web apps like use some APIs, and these APIs are not monolithic as well. They contain sub features, but at least basics that we need to, for example, run our apps offline. They are in each browser on both of major mobile platforms and even for desktops. For Windows 10, you can install your progressive web app as absolutely native application, and same for Chrome OS. So this logotype to the right of Windows, this is not about Chrome browser, but about Chrome OS. I couldn't find the specific Chrome OS logo. Maybe it's just the same. And hidden behind the flag, support of PWA for desktops for Mac and Windows from Chrome browser. So you can turn this on using some flag in your Chrome and test how will this look. And the same, very short about advantage that we want to give to our users. So first, and the say obvious application of this new modern set of possibilities is to provide all the ways to optimize our networking and put our apps offline. So I always during my sessions say, folks, let's forget about web is something connected to internet, to surfing websites in your browser. No, let's think about this like about full scale of feature-rich application platform. If we online, if we have this privilege to be online, we have the possibility to keep ourselves updated by receiving push notifications, and actually many other really interesting things that Serviceworker supports gives to us. For example, support of non-supported formats in the browsers. For example, WebP. If Chrome is good with showing this this format of images, Firefox is not at the moment, but using some smart techniques and putting WebAssembly into the loop, you can achieve this support like quite relatively easily, I'd say. And of course, to like form the app from our set of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS to kind of introduce this as an app, we use simple JSON file which follows web app manifest specification, and bam, we have what we call application. Angular. Angular as a modern framework, of course, it loves progressive web apps, it embraces it, it supports it, and we have different ways to do this. First, we can do everything by our hands, right? So Serviceworker is JavaScript after all, and we have all the power to do this. Next, we can use built-in feature, which is Angular Service Worker, which is a part of Angular PWA schematics, or use some third-party libraries, for example, SWPrecache or Workbox. As you most likely have seen on the announce of this call, of this show, today we go into details of NGSW, Angular Service Worker, and Workbox. Actually, both created by Googlers, right? But Angular Service Worker created by Angular team, and Workbox created by Jeff Posnick from, I don't know, Workbox team.
Can I ask a question about the previous slide?
Yes, please.
So, because the SWPrecache library, I'm not really familiar with it. Can you just quickly point out the difference between Workbox and this library?
Oh, yeah. Very good question. Actually, it's very simple. SWPrecache is father of Workbox, I'd say. Yes, so it's developed by the same team, but Workbox is re-architected, re-synced, and deeply refactored version of SWPrecache. So in general, we cannot say that this is next version of SWPrecache. They are two different, but by the same team, and maybe it follows some of the concept, but much more developer friendly and much more feature rich. Manual way, let's dedicate a minute or two to just understand why do we need this kind of tools at all? Why not to go for the first option? Okay, let's have a look. But before that, let me remind you that I run a Slack team dedicated to progressive web apps. We are more than 1,500 developers there, with folks from all noticeable like groups like browsers, frameworks, libraries. So you can ask, and what's more important, get answer on your question about progressive web apps. Okay, so let's have a look. What will it take to create app shell? What is app shell? In super simple words, we just take the critical resources, critical assets of our app, which we need to run this app at all, and maybe not just run, but to show something meaningful, like maybe header, maybe some menu. So what we want to take files needed to do this and put them into cache, and it's not HTTP cache, which we cannot full control on, but it's special type of cache managed by Cache API in modern browsers. So we want to put everything there. Why? To serve it from there on the next application start, like on the next refresh, to get this immediate showing something without even going to the network. Plus, as a bonus, we have offline fallback, right? So Service Worker contains, actually it reacts only on some events and sleeps all the rest of the time. So it's event-driven worker. So on install, we put some stuff to cache. On activate, we might want to clean the previous version. So I'm really sorry, I'm not going into details of how all this works. We work on like layer level upper this evening. So I just give only big picture. But in real world, even in this not very complex for the first site operations, we might hit many say, edge cases and unexpected situations. So first, some of responses could be opaque. It's when we trying to get something from third-party origins without coarse headers. Next, totally different picture for what we have as redirects. Next, most likely we don't want to every time put everything to cache and wipe the old one. We have to say pick the only updated resources, which will take some efforts to code. We have to clean after ourselves and keep control on cache size. And cache invalidation algorithm is not the funniest thing you want to code. Believe me, many other things that we have to care about, even just to process what I've shown on this previous slide. Next, so just imagine we did everything. We wrote full service worker with all this stuff. Next,
Maxim, I have a question actually regarding the previous slide. So can we run into the situation, for example, when you updated the version and the user is like seeing the stale version? Can it happen like we actually would like to see him always the new version? We develop a new like 2.0 version, he opens our app, but for some reason he still sees the old version.
It might happen. It might happen even with using some tools, and actually this is a well-known trade-off of progressive web apps in general. So it's not connected to the way we build it manually or we use some tools. It's just how it works. We want to show something immediately, and only then we can go and check if something was updated on the server between these 2 points of time. And if yes, we have all the mechanisms to grab updated version, and most likely we want to show some notice to the user. And yes, we can code all these say ifs manually, but again it will take some efforts. Hopefully we'll have enough time to demo today how it's automated both by NGSW and Workbox. But yes,
I guess the original question was, please correct me, Bartosz, if it is possible, if you deploy a new version, then the cache is not invalidated, which means even if, let's say, 9 out of 10 users see the new version, that in one client there is some caching problem and they still see the old version even if we deployed the new version. Is this correct, Bartosz? Was it your question?
Yes, actually, this is what I said, and Maxim pointed out that we can check it, but not like at the first place. So I can imagine that a user sees the old version, but then immediately the application like hits back to the server. Of course, after immediate display, and then we check like, oh, there's a new version, and we can say like a notification to the user, hey, there's a new version, would you like to refresh or something like that? Am I correct, Maxim?
Yes. So we are fully responsible for both going on the server to check and for showing this message. We can have it, or we could be lazy, and then yes, users will see the next the updated version only on next load. Again, if we implemented everything correctly from this and from this. So this is next slide about how to actually serve something that we have in our cache. And in Service Worker, we can intercept 100% of outgoing HTTP or HTTPS, in our case, requests from our app. And you see in this silly piece of code, I just check if URL contains API, then we might want to implement network first strategy and cache first. If not, so we like seeing that maybe if there's not API, then most likely this is our app shell, which we can always sort from cache. So this is really silly piece of code, even without implementing these strategies themselves. We have to implement some kind of routing, right? And again, this is most likely not what we want to do. So I just move the idea to the point when we, yes, and in the real world, we have to care about many other things while we serve resources from cache. So I just want to emphasize that it's possible to write Serviceworker manually, but this is not simple. This is not simple, and this will take quite lots of time. So despite we have full flexibility, we are fully responsible for everything in that case. This is why I want to invite everyone to use some tooling for your progressive web apps, while just not to introduce our bugs in our service workers and yes, and to not reinvent the bicycle. So these two last points are quite specific to service workers. First three ones, like they are quite obvious for any kinds of third-party libraries package we use, but following specifications and managing and maintaining edge cases is important. Why? Because service worker is living standard. Unfortunately, sometimes there are some breaking changes, and if we've chosen the proper tool, which is like under constant development or under maintaining, most likely its authors, they follow the updates. After all, they create something for progressive web apps, right? And the last point, edge case, HTTP protocol is not very simple, and really it contains many things beyond, say, best case scenario. And since service worker is pretty much everything related to network, we have to deal with all these complexities. This is why it's really important to have the code not only for the best case.
Let me add some additional info to that, because can you switch back a slide?
Mm-hmm.
So, or maybe the previous one, but it doesn't matter. So even if it is complex and this stuff, it is way easier than in the past. Back then, there was just a cache manifest, which is more or less a static version of the current service worker. So there it was just a text file, no logic, like a JSON object, and you could specify files to cache, fallback URLs or fallback files or whatever, and it was super buggy. I would say the main advantage in Service Worker is that we have this now event-driven, and we have logic that we can implement. Even if this functionality is complex, if you want to code it yourself, you are still able to do it. Not like with app cache, which was crazy and no logic at all. So it is a really nice thing, even if it is complex. It solves a lot of problems.
Yeah. What about this API updates in Chrome 68? Have you heard about some changes that they are also going to into that direction?
Yes. There will be breaking change, but it's not like directly related to service worker. It's related to PWA in general. This is how we install the apps. So before that, we could say write 0 lines of code to have this installation prompt appearing, like the one I bet you've seen that many times. Like this app could be installed on your home screen or desktop, something like this. Now we have to have explicit code for this. So this.
Yeah, but I know that probably this is not possible to programmatically, like on the button, I'll install the application. As far as I remember, maybe it has changed, but recently I remember it was that you have to visit the application for at least twice for some 2 days or 1 day, and then Chrome would automatically suggest, oh, and maybe you would like to install this application. But I at that time I couldn't find an API that, okay, I would like to call a function that would add it to my home screen, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, both statements you mentioned, they are different in Chrome 68. So first, this heuristic change. So now instead of 2 separate visits and some time between these visits, it was like 15 minutes or so. Now the heuristic is something about you have to interact with this app for at least 30 seconds or so. So it's different. And second, you told that this pop-up will be shown automatically. No, now it will be not shown automatically. You have to have this the supporting code in your application. But still, don't be confused. Even if you put this event prompt in your code, this will not call this prompt
dialog
before this heuristic works. So actually in your code, you hear for before install prompt event, and in this code you have to insert your own code, and your own code will not be performed before this heuristic work. It's a bit mind twisting, but the general idea to introduce this kind of complexity is actually has no good reasons. So first, not to annoy folks by popping up these prompts on every application start, or when developers want to show this message. No, we protect folks by heuristics by here. And second, protect us developers again from bad perception of our apps when this pop up even after heuristic worked. Before we had our own code, it popped up like unpredictably. For example, imagine user fill some long form, and especially on mobile device, this bam pop up half of screen. Would you like to install? No, I don't like to install it now, right? So we as developers now have more control on that. So despite we introduce it some extra complexity and breaking change, it's all for good. It's all for overall better perception of PWA ideas by our customers.
But I was always wondering, why couldn't I just have a API and programmatically allow the user to just click and install? I mean, I'm a developer. I would like to imagine I'm running the application, and okay, I would put this button maybe on the bottom on my website, allowing the user to click whenever he wants. I mean, that was actually surprising to me. Why wouldn't I be able to do this?
This button, it makes sense to show this only after heuristic worked. So
yeah, I mean, this is how it was implemented right now, but do you have any idea why we couldn't have simple call like install, and then it will be installed upon the user click?
It's kind of protection for developers not to misuse this feature. So if you have the possibility to show this message, this prompt, you can say overuse this and to show this prompt on application start, for example, right? And this is not good. This will not make users happy. So that's why we have this protection.
Spamming people.
Yeah, and thank you for the links in the chat. I really love how you send this context-wise links. So please continue. But okay, let's move forward. And by the way, we have special questions and answers section. Maybe so we'll do our best to answer most of them during the show, but since we have like limited time, we cannot sit for whole evening here, right? We decided to go on.
Maxim, I guess your daughter would be unhappy if you would spend whole night discussing with us.
Yes.
My cat too.
Good, let's move forward. So let's have a look what Angular Service Worker gives us in terms of automation of all this complexity we just discussed. Before that, short notice for those who still on Service Worker 5 and CLI 1.6, 1.7, there is a different way we used before today. So this is why most likely you've seen Service Worker flag. But today we have it like this. We create regular app from the scratch, or we take our existing app and we add the Angular PWA schematics on top of this. You know that schematics is a new cool way to add some features to our projects by just manipulating files, by adding new files, editing new files, to just avoid manual work, boring work on like adding more properties, adding more files, and so on and so on. So this is how it happens today. And then we just run build, production mode. It's important to remember it works only in production. And in our dist folder, which is in case of Angular 6, not just dist, but dist / our project name, we'll see Service Worker itself, its settings, and some more files. But for now, we just, let's discuss about the main ones. If we serve this, another important notice, don't use ngserve, even ngserve build. It will just not work, or will work not correctly with your service worker. Why? Because ngserve is too smart to let service worker take control, because like in memory everything, right? And the service worker, it just gets crazy. It cannot understand what's going on, where to take these resources, and so on. So never use ngserve. Use any static or non-static web server. In today's show, we'll use Light server created by John Papa to help us serve simplest static projects. Maybe, by the way, maybe let's kind of mix slides and some hands-on experience, right? So I have lots of everything open and running.
Could you maybe quickly show the angular.json file? Because yes, there's the key information on why this is built in a way for service-worker and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And also maybe the flag, because we can only use the service worker in production mode, not in development mode.
Yes, yes, yes. And to do this, let me do everything in my code editor. So ngpwa, this is our Guinea pig for today. And I just, to get it, I just ran ng new ngpwa. So it's as simple as that. I just did it before, not to waste our time on this. Now, let me switch to the next step I created. It's PWA scaffolds. And now we can open the editor and have a look what's going on. So, yes, that looks correct. So what was added? NGSW config file was added, and this is exactly how it goes right after schematics. So this is what I call, and not only me, but everyone call smart defaults. So just some configuration that will create app shell for us without any like movements from our side, straight out of the box. And let's just do this. We run ng build production, and while it builds, let me go through other changes we got after this schematics. In app module, we got this new line, which is just service worker registration. We don't have to do this manually, like you will see we have to do in case of workbox. So it's all just kind of included for us, full package for us. What happened after we ran ng build production? Let's have a look at our dist folder. By the way, this is some leftovers from my previous tries. We don't need this. First, Angular CLI copied ng-sw worker JS. This is Angular service worker itself. This is something that was created by Angular team. We don't touch this at all. We just don't need to do this. What we have else is ng-sw JSON. In general, we don't touch this also, because this is something that Angular CLI created for us based on ng-sw configuration. So this is what we write, and then Angular CLI takes this and creates this, from this. So it pretty much the same, but with adding of hashes. So this is kind of mechanism for Angular service worker to understand was the file changed or not. We definitely don't go to the syntax details of ng-sw config. Luckily, it's well explained at angular.io at the moment. Let's move on. And yeah, maybe let's after all solve this. Light server, and I had it somewhere here. But in our case, this will be not just dist, but ng-pwa. Okay, we have something, and this is totally not what we expect to see. This is not freshly scaffolded Angular app, right? Why? Because I used this origin before for my previous tries, and the previous service worker holds control on this. So this is really good illustration of what could confuse you or your user. So what we have to do is clear site data, like everything. This is developer console, application, clear storage, clear site data. And now if you do refresh, yes, most likely this is what we see. No idea what kind of error goes from ng-sw worker. Never seen this. Let's check. Service worker. This one deleted. This one is running. So we are good. Rule of thumb here: if something going wrong with your tries to set up service worker, just clear everything, and even better if you close the tab, because sometimes there are bugs even in browsers. Or even better if you just open incognito window. Let's do this, and now you see no errors, everything is good. So it was some leftovers from our previous tries. So let's just check if that works. We go offline, and yes, luckily we have Angular service worker taking control on everything. So actually it delivers everything from cache. And what exactly cached, we can check here. Again, application, cache storage. And in most of the cases, we have to click on refresh cache to see the updated version. And here we see lots of, say, technical stuff. It's technical for us, right? So this is what Angular Service Worker automates for us. We can just ignore what's here. It's not something we want to go dive into. Let's just check ng-sw state, this service URL. So here we see all the information about what's going on under the hood in Angular Service Worker. Good. So we automated everything, not everything, but everything regarding app shell by just actually doing nothing, right? We just added Angular schematics, and that's it. And Angular PWA schematics. Why it's called PWA but not Service Worker? Because it contains a second important part of PWA app manifest. So we can check that here we have this. Again, some default information, default icon, which is Angular icon, and the name, which is name of our project. So it means that we can check how it looks. So oh, why it's not found? This is strange. This is not, maybe it works like this in offline mode. No idea. Maybe it's because of this incognito mode. Let's have a look now. We definitely have to have this. Yes, yes. So you see that some really strange behavior. So in incognito mode doesn't show manifest for us, which is actually there. So don't forget to change default icon to your icon. And by the way, current schematics doesn't contain this code needed for app to show the prompt. Maybe it's a good idea for me to send a pull request to add it. Because starting from Chrome 68, this will be more or less useless, so we can only go and manually do like this, install ng pwa, and then this will work. I don't want to do this. Okay, so if we move on, we just went through all of this, and this is actually steps you can do by your hands. So no one like forces you to use schematics. So you can easily reproduce everything manually. We don't want to go through the syntax of app shell. It's quite well explained here. So Angular IO, docs, and to service workers. And in configuration, you will get a very good description of how it works. So runtime caching. This is something that obviously we cannot have a smart default, right? Because all projects are too different to have something. This is why we have to go and add everything to our NGSW config JSON. We don't want to do this manually now to waste time on this. I have project prepared with some configuration which called Potter. Maybe you've heard this name in context of Angular PWA. This is my main Guinea pig for sessions and workshops. So let's have a look at what we have here in NGSW config. Yes, so some extra settings added, like data groups, different APIs with different strategies, and also I added Google Fonts to asset groups to keep it as a version of the application. For now, instead of going into details of NGSW, since we have this concept NGSW versus workbox, let me jump over straight to workbox, and let's try to reproduce everything what we have now for the moment using workbox.
So we are able to achieve actually the same with a different tool, right? Because you in the beginning said that we can program everything by hand without any library. Then you went with NGSW, and now we are jumping over to workbox.
Exactly. So that's the goal. So let me scroll the slides to the workbox. I just keep everything here on this slide deck because I will share the link, so you can always return to this later. But during the call, yeah, maybe let's stop here. So this is basically all what's included in Angular Service Worker. It gives you the way to create app shell, and as you've seen, we do it completely without any efforts from our side. We just installed schematics and it's there. Runtime caching, we add more properties to NGSW configuration, and we achieve caching of our APIs. Plus, we can receive push notifications, and plus we can provide exactly this prompt, this window prompt or snack bar, you name it. You mentioned when we have updated version. If we have some time, we'll return to this. So what's good here? We have really interesting features going totally out of the box, and the rest of the features mainly code free. This is just configuration of some kind. And after all, we do everything in Angular way. We use like modules, classes, observables, and so on. So this is really, really native, natural to Angular. On the other hand, this is what I want to avoid if we want to extend the features of our service worker. Like it's okay to have Angular service worker as something to start with, but if on our roadmap we have really shiny features of service workers to be implemented, Angular service worker is not very good in that sense, because there is no, say, elegant way to extend it. In most cases, you have to go to this NGSW worker, which is copied from node module each time you run build, and inject something here manually. It's not intended to be extended, at least at the moment. So Workbox contains lots of features out of the box. Again, it's almost code free based on configuration, but its killer feature is that you can write your own service worker and extend it by Workbox features. But let's start with this. It has 3 modes for you even to start. The simplest one is to install Workbox CLI. Again, it's already pre-installed for me. Will not spend time on this. And to run Wizard. Wizard will, maybe we can just even demo this. This will not take so much time. Let's go back to the master and run Workbox Wizard. So it asks what the distribution folder of your app. Okay, you can pick something or choose manually which file types to cache. Okay, let's take everything. How to name your service worker. Maybe that's not so good contrast here. Let's call it this way. And do you want to save everything? Yes, let's do this. Workbox configuration, just to avoid these questions for the next time. What we have as a result, let me show you on the neighbor repo. It's exactly what we just got. It's called WB scaffolds. Yes, so it's in that repo, and this configuration, oh, sorry. This configuration we just saved looks like this. Some pretty simple rules. What to do next? So this is what we got. Yes. Sorry. So this is what goes by default, and to mimic approximately mimic what we have in Angular Service Worker, let's switch to other branch. I pre-created everything for you. Yes, it's called like parity, which means feature parity in that sense. So this is how it looks. So basically the same. We take a fav icon. So yeah, you can compare. So fav icon, index HTML, and something from assets, and we ask to build this file. and then we just generate service worker from this, asking workbox to do this. Which way? This one. We use same workbox command from CLI, workbox CLI. We use generate SW like parameter and pass our configuration file there. So let's run this. Or you see, I created alias to run production build and run this later. This the order is important because configuration file takes artifacts from dist folder. What we have as a result, by the way, let's run this full npm run build pwa, right? Param pam pam, and let's have a look at our dist folder. Yes, so this is what workbox generated for us. Again, full service worker, but you see the idea is different. If in Angular service worker we have service worker separately and configuration file for it separately, here we have everything mixed up. Service worker and like the configuration, what to cache, actually injected straight here. So both options are good, and both are absolutely valid. This is just different architecture. If we
I mean, also the main difference is here that we don't have any Angular service or module or something. So it's completely not connected to Angular at all, and it still works, right?
Yes. You are right, because I totally forgot that to make this running, of course, we have to go and register this manually. So if you remember that in Angular service worker case, we did this. I
mean, the integration is like Angular way, and here we need to do this manually, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I reset back to master. So, but you remember it was it imported service worker module and registered this. How we do it? Yes. How in app module? How we do this in case of workbox? Let me demo this. No, it's not here. Sorry. Yes. So the recommended practice is to register service worker after application was scaffolded. And to do this, we add this code in as a next step after bootstrapping our module. So this is something I added manually to main TS to have service worker registered. It's it's also not a big deal, but don't forget to do this. So we not only generate service worker, but of course we have to register this manually. And this is only one option. Second, which is more classic, let me demo this. I believe it's here, is to have this code in index.html. Just a second, where it is. Yes. It's classic. So you've seen this code in any service worker like manual. There are pros and cons of both options. We'll not go into details, but just not forget to register this. I will not even start this app because it will work the same. It will open this default Angular app and register workbox. What's not so cool in this case? I really don't like the idea to have one more CLI, which is, say, significant part of the build flow, because, most likely you don't want to install any kind of CLI on your production server where you want to build everything again, right? But here, if you see, we use this workbox. Luckily, workbox is so flexible that it gives the way to totally bypass its CLI. So you don't obligatory have to install this. And again, to save some time, let me switch to this branch. I call this workbox build because we add one extra step to our build process, actually like here. But now we use not CLI plus configuration, but we use our own JavaScript file and we ask Node to run this. So let's have a look what's inside this file. See, it's workbox build. Yes, before that we have to install one supporting package, workbox build, but yes, we have to install this package, but anyway, it's much better than having global CLI, right? Maybe it's not a big deal to have global CLI in the latest Node versions when we can run npx, but still it's better option to have this as part of our build. Idea is following. Yes, important to say that now we want to switch to the possibility I explained when we have our own service worker and we want to extend it by the features of workbox. It works like this. So our own service worker, let's have it in source service worker JS. It's where is it? Yes, it's here. And it's this simple. What we need now, we only actually import script with workbox library itself. So this is workbox library, which helps us to automate. And we have this magic method called precache and route. And if you remember, like 2 minutes ago, we opened service worker JS generated by workbox CLI, and actually it was very, very similar. It also imported workbox library itself, but here we had the full list of our assets, like index, icons, and so on and so on. So it was generated for us, and we definitely don't want to do it by hands. We don't want to go through these files, calculate hashes, and actually workbox build idea is to inject all this stuff into our own service worker, and even method called inject manifest. So we basically have to have this line in our manually written service worker, but workbox build will do this dirty job for us. Let's give it a try. Now let's open our package JSON. And now you see, I changed our previous command. I renamed it to CLI, and now by build PWA, I just run this JavaScript file. Let's see what we have as a result. And so right after, since we out of time, I will just show you, say, fully featured versions of what are built on NGSW and on Workbox, and you will see the difference in configuration much in better way. So okay, we built everything. Let's have a look at our build artifacts. Okay, this is exactly what we wanted to achieve. We still have our own code, but workbox build, in that case, injected everything for us. And now if we run everything, this will register service, and not register, this will use this SWGS as service worker. Let's give it a try, by the way. Where is our light server? Don't forget to close the tab and clear the storage. Otherwise, we'll see again something controlled by Angular service worker. Okay, looks good. And Workbox gives us really cool messages to debug everything. And of course, we can turn this mode off in production mode, but it's pretty wordy. It loves to give the status. Of course, it also populates cache storage, but in its own manner. So it's totally different from Angular Service Worker. But as a result, I hope the result will be the same. So it just works offline. So exactly like we have in Angular Service Worker case. Okay, let me, your questions, by the way.
We have a question from Yuri. It's kind of long. Let me read it. I mean, he asked, do you have experience suggestions using stale while revalidate strategy? Like if you have an offline first app which caches the data using this strategy, how do you best handle updates to the data? Like the user editing the data, say in data grid. Problem with stale while revalidate is that it's super fast, but with the updates that the user will be presented the old record after editing. So, I mean, did you guys get the question?
Yes, I think I understand what was asked. First, what is stale while revalidate strategy? For my explanation for everyone. This is combination of cache first and network first. It works like this. On the first load, we takes everything from cache if we have something there, of course, and show this immediately. At the same time, we go to network and try to get updated version from there. So if it's updated, we put everything to cache, and for the next time we serve the next the fresh data. So it's kind of like multi-step strategy, and actually it's a combination of two. It's really good idea to use this kind of strategy for application shell, and it's actually what's going on in Angular Service Worker. Despite it loads everything from cache on the next after the first start, at the same time, Angular Service Worker goes to the network and check if it was updated. It again does all this dirty job for us for the next starts. How to apply this strategy to something that you edit on your page? I didn't have such tasks, so maybe if you really need to always show fresh data, maybe you just have to use network first for this kind of task, because this is well-known trade-off of progressive apps. As I mentioned, that we show non-fresh version, and actually for me it even feels like we break the web, right? And we open something and we might have this extra message asking us if you wish to refresh the page, and user could think, what, refresh the page? I just opened this and it shows me something, and at the same time asks me if I want to refresh. What's going on at all? I believe you've seen this on many websites. Yes, for again, this works for app shell, but for the data, I'd not go for this strategy.
I would say a workaround for this is implement some not service worker based caching, which is not the best way, but you could achieve a working caching strategy that is similar to this previous one that you used. I mean, just implement some Rx logic that caches it. Yeah, but I said it's not the cleanest way.
Good. I see more questions, but let me actually show you what I promised to show is more or less feature-rich version of Workbox Workbox custom service worker. And I have...
You should also spend some time on new features like this push notifications. Maybe, yes. I mean, we are at least
yes, so
10 minutes over, so maybe let's do some timekeeping.
Yeah, we have actually 2 more questions from our audience. Vitaly is asking, what do values for update via cache service worker mean? It is not clear from Google 68 post on the SW nightly spec.
Okay, yes, very good question. And so there are 3 options now, which are imports, none, or all. And it gives you the possibility to keep control on how browser retrieving service worker via cache or not. But again, it's constant confusion between service worker cache and HTTP cache. And in that sense, we are talking about HTTP cache. Because, you know, service worker is a regular resource in terms of browser after all, right? And how to, and now browser can understand that service worker is different by checking. If like we added like version 1 somewhere inside service worker, it's considered as a new by a browser, and it starts this service worker update flow, which is also like also quite interesting, and we can spend another hour to just explain only update flow. It was not like this, and it's not like this for everything we use via import scripts. Even if this workbox SW.js will be different, browser will just ignore this, and we have to implement some ugly hacks like this, or renaming this. This update via cache property gives us the way to control this. So default option is imports, and yeah, of course it's not the syntax of JS. I just typed that you better perceive this. Imports, it mimics exactly the situation that what we have now. So it means that we will update via cache only imports. It's actually just not to introduce one more breaking change in service worker configuration. Next option is all. This is the most conservative one. It means that everything will go through the cache rules. But I believe most of us will use this one, known, and it means that browser will always get the latest versions of everything, ignoring cache at all. So something like this. About service worker and caching, there is on HTTP caching, there is only one difference compared to regular files like our main.js or index.html or whatever. Even if we set like how that's called, cache time or max cache, for example, 2 days or 1 year. Browser will check it in 24 hours. So this is maximum caching time for service workers, and this is the only difference. But again, don't be confused. Browser will not do this in background, so there is no magic like we'll check if service worker updated every 24 hours. No, it's only based on user action. So if someone uses our like app, then browser will check this. Next question. Yeah, by the way, I found this question answers folder about background sync support, and the answer is no. It's supported by Workbox only at the moment. But first, just make sure that you first check support of browsers, right? So it's one say level of support by the libraries, but background sync in general supported only in Chrome at the moment. I know that Microsoft is working on implementation, and folks from Mozilla work for implementation in Firefox, but at the moment, from what I know, it's supported only in Chrome. But this is a very good question to transit to how we extend our service workers, right? Workbox one. So you remember that our, say, simplest custom workbox service worker is looking like this. We import the library and we have this empty pre-caching route where we inject it. And we have the possibility to add...
Maxim, I guess there is a problem with your microphone.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe the hand is on the microphone or something. It was really hard to understand you.
Okay. Can you say something?
One. Is it better?
Yes, now it's better.
Okay. Okay. So when it started, so where do I have to start from?
Just continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I can use this external one, so maybe this will look better. So do you hear me now?
It looks definitely better.
Yeah, looks in the big picture. Good. So, as I mentioned, we have this basic one, two, say, obligatory lines. Next, we can add more stuff, like, for example, control some options from configuration. In that sense, I just said that it debug, and now I get this message in console, log level of this message. Runtime caching, and maybe it's a good idea to compare how we do this. For example, let's have a look how we cache runtime of our APIs, timeline and favorites. I run the simplest node package with some tweets exposed as API, and actually my goal is to cache everything during runtime when my app asks for this, applying some strategies. So we do it like this in Workbox, and in NGSW we do it like this. Let me find another pointer, and the configuration file is here. Yes, so we provide settings for runtime caching in data groups, but idea is the same. So it's just like different format, I'd say. We provide the URLs in some form. We provide strategy, which freshness is network first, performance is cache first. So and we have network first and cache first here correspondingly. Push notifications. We have to add supporting code manually to Workbox, and we can add nothing to NGSW, JSON configuration, because it just goes out of the box. So in that sense, Angular Service Worker simpler. It kind of has this listener by default there. On the other hand, in Workbox, we can add more features of push notifications, like manage notification click, just in other listener. What else? We can manage notification close. It's not in my sample, but it's just another event our service worker can receive. What will happen when user close our notification? And back to background sync. It's also implemented in a very simple way in Workbox. Basically, it's very similar to runtime caching, right? We provide, again, some URL. Here it's in the form of regexp. And basically, that's it. We just might want to provide some configuration, and this will work like magic. I will not demo this because I have to physically disconnect internet to demonstrate this. Maybe it's Yeah, maybe it's on my slides in form of some GIFs, but in general, it works like this. By the way, let me after all run some of our plotters. Let's start with Workbox, for example. I believe I pre-built this. So light server 305. 222. Again, most likely this specific version is here from my previous try. So let's make sure that everything is clean. Okay, Workbox. So you see everything happens under the hood. And yeah, I believe this again some leftovers. So let's make sure to close everything. Yeah, it's really a rule of thumb. If something goes wrong, just
restart.
Restart browser. Yes.
Restart the whole machine.
And main point is to close all the tabs, because yeah, it's hard to kick off Serviceworker from its place, really. Okay, now yeah, you see that the picture is different. Let's demo push notification, for example. We subscribe for the push. And yeah, you see we receive lots of them. This is why in the background, this API, it listens to all tweets in whole world containing JavaScript string and pushes everything like crazy to my apps. And let's also demo this feature. We mentioned this a couple of times during the call. Yeah, maybe let's spend last couple of minutes about how to implement this pop-up saying that something was updated in the app. And in Workbox, it's as easy as this. During pre-caching, we specify plugin called broadcast update, and we give name of the channel we will use for broadcasting these updates. We broadcasted from where to where? From our service worker to our app. It means that in our app, we have to have supporting code for this. And it's also quite simple. What we do here, we use broadcast channel API. We use it like this. So we create update channel. We add listener to this. And on message, we actually show this material snack bar with newer version of app is available. There are many places where you can go wrong in this flow while you're testing this. It's easy to implement, but testing this could be quite interesting story. But let's do our best. So
I mean, I really like this feature. I call it local messages. You can do a lot of cool stuff. Let's say you have some time tracking stuff that pops up with Windows. Now it's time to make a break or whatever. Pretty cool use cases.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have plotter 2 in our title. Let's rebuild everything with plotter 3. Okay. Now we have to build everything. I forgot how I call this in my package JSON. Yes, it's this. So you see, idea is the same. I build production version and then run Workbox build inject, which is more or less the same script as we explained in Workbox build with some small optimizations. npm run and this. Go. Yes, so I believe we all spend lots of time watching this 92% chunk set optimization, right?
It's like in a real project, the last 8%.
Yes, this is something that always catches my eyes. Okay, good. And now let's make sure that we see everything in this window. Let's close this bar because it might overlap something. And let's, of course I have to start the server. One small thing, I forgot to start the server. Okay, yes, water 2, and I failed somewhere. So you see, I don't see this message. Where is it? What was wrong?
The wrong version. You have still PWA Ter 2 and you wrote 3, right?
Yes. You see, maybe something wrong with the port. Okay, so let's
restart the computer.
Yeah, so you see if yeah, by the way, easy way to bypass service worker stuff is to do how it's called, hard reload while you click while you hold shift. So now we kind of ignored everything from service worker, and magic, you see now it's 2 again because this is something when I didn't hold shift, so it's controlled by service worker, and definitely something went wrong because workbox still thinks that we on Potter 2. What could go wrong here?
Use this this bug here to discuss it. I mean, this is something that could easily happen on the client side. So you create a PWA, you deploy it, the client pulls the latest version, you deploy another update, and it stacks exactly in the same way as it is doing now. So
yes,
in the project that I worked, we had more or less directly contact to our clients, so we could send out emails, hey, clear cache or whatever. We wrote some descriptions how to overcome this problem, but it was luck that we had this opportunity to writing them emails to however many people. But in real life, it's very hard to like tell the user, please clear your cache, refresh everything, restart.
Especially when you say to the user, please do the hard reset or hard cache clean, right?
Yeah. Yes. Of course. If you in this situation, it just means that you did something wrong, and believe me, I did something wrong. So this is not normal way of.
Yeah, I know that this is not normal, but I mean problems will happen. At least I did a lot of them, and I deployed at least 2 versions that was not able to move them away. Yeah, so it's painful to deal with this on a client side. Do you have any suggestions?
Absolutely. You raised a really good problem. Yeah. Let's have a look what could save us in both options. So you might notice that in addition to NGSW worker, we have also safety worker as part of our build artifacts. And actually, this is the one which intended to kick off the old service worker and actually like unregister all service workers in case of fail. So what we have to do after, in case of emergency, we just have to rename, we just have to remove this NGSW worker and rename safety worker to NGSW worker. So basically we deploy safety worker as under the name of NGSW worker. Why? Because most likely, if your stale service worker keeps control, it will serve index HTML or like Java or your main JS, which tries to register service worker with exactly the same name. So this is why the only way to kick this off to like physically rename this to say safety worker. Also, even faster way for Angular service worker to give a signal to Angular service worker that, hey, something went wrong, please kill yourself, is to just delete NGSW JSON on your production. So the mechanism is simple. If NGSW worker can't find its configuration file, it means that all went totally wrong. It's better for me to unregister myself, and it will try to do this. But yeah, safety worker, and actually this one is not related to like Angular at all, right? So this is very generic service worker. You can take this code and use it as emergency service worker in workbox case. So it exactly the same. Okay. Maybe last pieces code I want to show you is how to, and maybe we will be lucky to still have this notification about the version was updated in the context of Angular service worker. Let's try our luck here. So what we do here is import SW update class from Angular service worker. There is lots of code, but we need only this one. And then on ng on init, we actually run this method. We use SW update class, and we ask, hey, please check for update, and if update was activated, we just show this window. Let's try our luck here. It's Angular service worker, yes, correctly. Let's rebuild everything. And by the way, you see that in my sample, I'm still on CLI 174, but I use Angular 6 for the code. It works approximately the same. Maybe some bugs were not fixed, but in general, the mechanism is absolutely the same like we have in CLI 6. Okay, let's kill this. It's killed, this server. Now let's run. So now we have to remember that we expect to see NGSW worker as a main service worker. It's like this, but just to give some warranty, I will close everything and reopen everything. It's a good habit. Okay. And now let's update this. Let's build this again. Maybe, maybe that happens because because Light Server, it opens a new tab explicitly. Maybe if we can get rid of this, maybe this will work as intended. Because in my previous tries, I tried HTTP server, which is like another package, even simpler. Again, 92%. And now, okay, let me close this tab in advance. And now let's run this. Yeah, I please don't disappear. We need you. Yes, you see, right? Maybe that was, and now it's Potter too. So it's all happened in our NGSW. And let's give the last try to do the same for Workbox. Let's rebuild everything. Yeah. So meanwhile, again, main differences. Angular Service Worker gives app shell totally out of the box, gives possibility to extend to runtime caching, and gives push notifications out of the box. On the other hand, Workbox, it provides like some smart defaults that you have to tune a bit to achieve a good looking app shell for Angular apps. And it provides the way to build your own service worker. So you actually free to add any kinds of listeners for your service worker, which is really important if you wish to extend your PWA. Okay, let's solve this. What we have now, we close this tab. Let's make sure that we are good, clean everything. Open this again for just in case. What? Are we running service worker at all? No, something went wrong. Script to config must be set. Ah, yes, you know what? Maybe it's because of my change in SW when I moved this. Yes, of course. You have to follow some order. You have to first set configuration and then do everything. But yeah, let me just don't waste your time on this. Believe me, it also works for Workbox as well. This pop up about the new version, but mechanism is different, right? So in Angular Service Worker, we listen and say native, and it's not here, by the way.
So Maxim, Bartosz, may I suggest that we do a ramp up? We are now 40 minutes over.
Yes.
Maybe we can use the last minutes to like repeat the main parts, what we discussed so far, maybe the main differences, and then maybe Bartosz, you can say goodbye from the.
Yeah, I think that we are all over half an hour of time, so that's a good suggestion. I didn't want to disturb you, Maxim, because you are so passionate about
that's true.
PWA. I just didn't. I couldn't just say we need to finish, but
I mean, I have to go. You can go on as long as you want. I just have to
finishing and wrapping up is exactly what I'm doing now. So I explained the difference. Perfect. So I already started. So you already heard the part one of the differences, and this update flow it's also here to showcase this. So in Angular, we use Angular native ways. We listen observables. In case of Workbox, we use say regular JavaScript APIs. We use broadcast channels. Yes, but so these tools are different by their nature, by their architecture. They can give you possibility to achieve this or that feature in simpler or more complex way, and it's really up to you to decide. So for me, I would recommend you the following strategy. You can always start with Angular Service Worker to give at least basic functionality for your app, and it just really as easy as run one command, add this schematics, and then you can always switch to Workbox without say much time wasted. So this is my advice.
Cool. That was very fruitful presentation about service workers. I hope you all enjoyed it. So do you have anything to add, Michael, to this content?
Well, I guess that the things that I said are my addition to this, my 5 cents. So not a lot to say now. I would say.
Okay, guys.
I mean, it was a really good overview. We had some time to discuss some problems, some more details. For example, I really like that we explained that it is not so easy to add this custom dialogues and this stuff with the one or the other library. Also, the background sync was for me an important information that we explained this, that it is not possible in both libraries. So I'm happy.
Yeah, so I would like to thank you guys for joining this show. If you there's like a question to our attendees. If you liked it, just we will be continuing with the show. The lineup is like prepared for the next couple of weeks, so we will have more different guests, and we'll be discussing also interesting content. So just follow on Twitter and write maybe what you would like to hear in the next episodes. Thank you, guys.